Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Crime Centric. This being a show we're talking about crime dramas that I watch. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of Blindspot. A lot of stuff went down in this episode, so let's break it down. First of all, let's start off with the Tasha and Madeline thing of them being in Mexico. I love that whole situation because it's like, at first, it's like, obviously, there's the whole, like, oh, nuclear missile hit New York situation. Obviously, we'll talk about on the other side of things. But I love that Tasha's like, did you do this? Because for one, it's like, we just happen to be out of New York when this happens. Two, the fact is that shows you, once again, another example of her being like, you're so crazy, Madeline, that I could actually see you doing a stunt like this. It's like, is this your part? And she's like, no, I didn't actually have that on the list. Then her and Franco's conversations and stuff like that. And he's like, oh, if I don't like what you have to say, I'm going to kill you. Madeline's like, well, we all got to go sometimes. She got a smile on her face. That lady does not crack under pressure. I don't know whether that is simply because she's just plain crazy, or is it just a simple situation of she knows this type of situation she's in, but she's still so cool, calm, and collected. I think that's kind of interesting. What I also love too is that while they're making these dealings and they're talking and stuff like that, like Madeline's like, oh, to make you feel better, like basically I made an assassination attempt on this particular president just so it could, because if that president was removed from the situation, it could create a power vacuum and help you out of the current situation that you're in. She's like, yes, this was kind of a test run to show you what's possible. The next bullet will count. He's like, wow, you're crazy. And I like it. And she's like, I knew you would. It's like, it's like two, let's go ahead and say sociopaths are kind of bonding a little bit. But what I love is like, okay, you can get Del Toro for a day or two. If I get to take Tasha for a day or two, after you return Del Toro, you get your partner back. But Madeline didn't do that. She could have easily done it, but she was like, I'll give you $2 million up front. I'm like, yo, Tasha's actually important too. That's kind of crazy. You wouldn't actually think anyone would matter to Madeline in this whole situation. It seems like she'd be willing to cast anyone aside. But to be fair, Tasha's helping her get her goals and do what she wants to do. Plus, you know, it's kind of like, oh, we're partners in this situation. That's why she came to Mexico too, because it's like, oh, I'm gonna be your partner in this situation. I'm gonna have your back. So she had her back in this situation. What Franco was like, oh yeah, she's willing to, you're worth $2 million to her, and I wonder why. Because he's like, and Tasha's like, I know where the dead bodies are, as well as where to put the new ones. So if I were you, I'd take the money. I'm like, oh, Tasha with a badass line. I even love her being like when he was threatening them and everything. She's like, do I look worried to you? And I think legitimately she was worried because things could easily go south. But turns out Del Toro's not in Mexico. He's actually in Canada. What I'm wondering is, why is she avoiding Canada? Like, is that where all the stuff with her husband went down or something? I assume that would happen in the States. Maybe it didn't. But it's like, does she have some past in Canada that she's trying to leave behind? Maybe she came to the States and reinvented herself. And so going back to Canada would mean confronting her past. Like, maybe there's stuff that's out for her, like warrants and stuff for her in Canada potentially. It's just kind of interesting because she's just kind of like, oh no, Tasha, you handle all this stuff in Canada, get Del Toro and meet up with me again. I'm like, why is that? Like, the lady who doesn't seem like she's afraid of anything, it just kind of seems interesting that you're going to leave all this to Tasha. The fact of the matter is, but I guess for her it's kind of like, she had her thrills with the whole Mexico situation, so it's like, yeah, coming face to face with a cartel boss, that's enough fun for me. You go ahead and handle Canada yourself. I don't know. Now, what I really like about that whole situation is, like, you know, when it's all said and done, we have Tasha kind of caught in the middle, and like, Whites has a gun pointed on her, so does Reed, and we kind of leave that situation as it is. But I'm curious to see where the next step for that is, because Madeline probably isn't in, I mean, like, her and Tasha had just split when Reed had saw her, so she probably won't know about Tasha, but Tasha's like, walk away from this. But it's like, once again, this is her undercover work, I'm sure. Like, I don't know what Tasha's like, what the whole breakdown of this situation is going to be, but it's kind of like, yeah, it's better we find you before the CIA, but maybe it is still a situation of she does work for the CIA, just maybe Keaton didn't know that, you know. So is that, I mean, it's espionage, so only certain people know to kind of keep, you know, two can keep a secret if three of them are dead type of situation. Not the best analogy to use, but obviously. So either way, I'm very interested to see where that goes. It's kind of an interesting place for them to end that all. Now let's focus on the other big part of the episode, and it's like, yo, Kurt bringing Patterson and Rich into this situation. Also, I love the fact is Rich used a deep fake, which is interesting. Well, a deep fake of Patterson being like, oh yeah, Rich, he's so awesome, he's so cool, he's so much better hacker than me and stuff like that. And I just think that's kind of, which is, it's one of those things where it's like, oh yeah, stuff from real life gets pulled into TV shows and stuff like that. It's just always kind of an interesting thing, especially that whole situation, which, you know, if you don't know about deep fakes, that's a scary situation, people being able to take just like stuff from you. It's not a perfect technology, but the fact is people could put you in positions and saying things that you didn't say, and it's a creepy situation to be in. I love that Rich made that joke about Patterson, like her voice being like, I forgot what his exact wording was, but he was making a joke about her voice, but he was like, which I think is adorable, which I'm wondering, is that a line that was written specifically kind of supposed to be a knock against, you know, the actress who plays Patterson, Ashley Johnson, just because she does voiceover work? So I wonder, is that what that's supposed to be? Is it just because, you know, because I think, me personally, I feel like Ashley Johnson kind of has a very unique voice. But maybe that's just because she just wanted, because I know her from her voice acting work and stuff like that. So maybe that's why I associate it as her having a very distinct, you know, voice. So maybe that's what that's supposed to be. But I wonder, is that just me overthinking and like that's supposed to be kind of like a wink, wink, nudge, nudge, because you actually have an amazing voice because you do all this like voiceover work too that you're kind of known for. So that's how I look at it. But like I said, maybe that's just me. But getting back to it, like they don't want anyone to know about Jane, well, Remy being back into the whole equation, because for him it's like, if they find out about Remy, there's no way there's going to be a chance that if everything goes back to normal, Jane will ever be able to be allowed to work with them again. I mean, because it kind of came up in the past before when the whole like, oh yeah, like not sure which side Jane's really on type of thing. So this would murky all the good grace and good work she's done so far. So there's that type of situation, because it's like, oh, how do we know we could ever trust her again? So there's that. So we got to keep this between us. The whole Boston situation, which is sad because Boston's like, no, I thought I was being a good guy. Wait, we're not the good guys, are we? Because they set off this fake alarm saying that a nuclear missile was hitting New York. This is the plan that Violet had came up with, that she was like, wait, I don't think about this. This is going to cause like mass panic and stuff like that. But Remy was like, I don't care, do it. The moment the situation went down, I was like, this has to be part of Remy's plan. So that was interesting. Also, her breaking Shepard out. And I think that's probably one of the biggest, like, whoa moments for me, is like seeing Shepard the way she is. I mean, to be fair, she was tortured by the CIA and all this time. Like she had lost everything that she was aiming for, came crumbling down. She lost so much, you know, because she was practically alone. Because like, even with Sandstorm being dismantled, like, I think she knows that Roman's dead, because she kind of brings it up later on. So either it's because Remy told her, or like the CIA used that against her potentially to kind of break her or whatever. But it's like, she's not the woman that she was before. And it's so weird because she's such a strong-willed woman that was so sure of herself. And she was just kind of like, Remy, we should just run and hide and live in peace. And Remy's like, no, shut your mouth. The fact of the matter is, all I've sacrificed to get where I am right now. Where's the woman who would fight and do all this, who believes so strongly in what she was doing? But for her, like I said, she's not the same person that she was anymore. It's like, that woman is dead, and Remy slapped her. It's like, get your shit together. It's like, wow. So I'm interested to see I mean, to be fair, we know that Borden is still around. I mean, obviously we saw him last season, but we know he's around and kicking. But still, that doesn't really do much for the overarching force of Sandstorm really being 3 members at most, 2 out free, 1 still locked up. Well, others potentially locked up or dead, you know, so it doesn't really help out in their situation. But you could tell that, like, yeah, Shepard did know about the Zip situation before him, because Remy was like, oh yeah, Roman, he's right behind you. And she looks and was like, realizes he's not there, and sees the pain Remy's in and apologizes. She knew about it ahead of time, because that was the whole thing, but it was kind of like, no, she wouldn't have done that. It's kind of what Remy was kind of saying before, but even now Remy's like, she kind of justifies it, because she's like, no, it doesn't matter. The fact that, well, it wouldn't have mattered then. All you had to do was tell me, because I still would have done it because it was for the mission and stuff like that. But, you know, in, you know, Shepard's mind, it's like, well, I didn't think it was important to tell you, because the fact of the matter is, I thought we'd get you back in a couple months, but she didn't. You know, no one knew that the bond between who she would be as Jane would sprout and become what it did. Like that, the trust between her and Kurt, because even Oscar wasn't enough to completely pull her away from the FBI. Like, her feelings for Kurt and the FBI grew too strong, and she chose them over this whole Sandstorm situation. So apparently there's someone named Callisto that Roman was looking into for a potential cure at this whole situation. So even then, it's still not a known thing, whether because there's not one on either 100% guaranteed on either side, because there's a whole situation. Patterson's like, yeah, the fact of the matter is the person I've been talking to, is like, all the stuff is there, but there's no guarantee this is going to work, because the whole thing is like, not only, because for one, it's like, what they're trying to do isn't even curing the Zip poisoning, it's more so like trying to get Jane back, which that in itself is a very unprecedented thing. We're trying to reverse what the Zip did and bring forth Jane's personality, which is interesting, because like the way Rich explained it was kind of fascinating, because he was basically like, the Zip had such drastic effect that her brain was trying to reboot itself like a computer, but rather than going back to the factory set of Jane, it went back to the factory reset of Remy, which is interesting. But there's no guarantee that this will bring Jane back. It can bring Jane back, but there's also a chance it would kill her, because the person that was used on before died as well. But then we also know that the Zip situation is getting worse, because Jane, her mind is so blurred that she's like, no, Roman's right there. Like, she still thinks he's alive, even though she knows he's dead. She's always known that he was a hallucination, but because for her, it's like, no, I need to hold on to Roman. I can't accept that he's dead. No, this is Roman. He's been by my side. I guess this is the last time she'll ever see him, because it's like her subconscious, I guess, created Roman as a defense mechanism against the Zip killing her. So, now that she's reached her goal of getting Shepard, she doesn't technically need him anymore, even though she kind of does need, that whole thing. So, I'm curious to see, will we see any more of him as her condition continues to get worse. Another great bit, in my opinion, is the whole Boston and Rich thing. It's like, you got to go to Supermax prison. He's like, how is that fair? Remy gets away with all this. It's like, well, we can't let them know that Remy was behind all this. So I get put as a scapegoat in Boston's mind, and it's like, no matter what happened between us, like our relationship's never been conventional. I just want you to know that I love you. And then Rich is like, I knew you loved me. I'm like, wait, what? And he's like, no, I was just messing with you. The whole thing was a joke. I was like, Rich, you're such an asshole. That is the most messed up thing you can do, especially for someone that you claim to love and everything. But for him, it's kind of like, no, like, it's in Rich's mind is getting payback at him, because it's like, yeah, you almost started World War III, and the only reason why I called you to leave that message is because you set up that whole situation. So I guess it's his way of trying to take back that confession, because it's so interesting, because Kurt and him had that moment of like, oh, let's call the people that we love most. In his case, it's Boston. In Kurt's case, obviously Jane, that leaves this message of being like, I love you if I never get the chance to say goodbye and stuff like that. And ultimately, Boston is pissed. He's talking about the fact is that he's going to ruin Rich. And Rich is like, yeah, oh, you're going to do that the moment you get back to your house arrest? And he walks away so smug. And there's also an expression on Boston's face at the end. Is that him being like, oh, I'm plotting my revenge? Or is that him kind of being like, actually, I kind of like the fact that she got me like that? It's hard to tell what that expression meant, but I think that Rich should watch his back, because Boston's probably going to come after him hard again. But to be fair, he had brought up the fact is they don't have the most conventional relationship. This is kind of a little bit of cat and mouse between them. I wonder if this has anything to do with all the stuff that Patterson told him last week about the whole Boston situation. That might be kind of influencing why he's doing this, but he's even like, oh, did you catch that recording? It's like, oh yeah, he said he loves me, so ha 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 ha. So it's like, it's a weird, messed up relationship where it's like he did that, but it's like, oh, he actually does, Boston does care about me, so ha ha ha, it's great, ha ha, I knew it, so weird, crazy situation. But when it's all said and done, they used a deep fake to make one of Roman to trick Jane into coming. So she goes by herself, and her and Kurt are about to duke it out when it cuts there, but I'm sure we can't count Shepard out yet. I mean, I actually didn't even expect it to get to that point where it's like, oh, actually releasing Shepard. It's like, where we're going with that, I have no idea. because they've gotten so sidetracked with the whole Remy thing, they're not focusing on the Madeline thing. It's kind of like those are two separate things that are happening at once, which is interesting because that typically doesn't really happen. Because usually it's all, well, no, because last season was split too, because it's like Roman and the whole Crawford situation were kind of one, because he was pointing them towards Crawford, but they were coming after him. But all of season 2 was all about Sandstorm, so that's why I'm kind of like, I don't know. I guess it's a little bit of a mixed bag in that regard of having that split focus of like the whole Remy Sandstorm situation this season, as well as the whole Madeline HCI Global situation, which also kind of splinters off because there's also the Tasha element, which that's connected to the Madeline thing. But you get what I'm trying to say. So I am very excited to see what the next episode has in store for us. Sadly, we'll be waiting a little while because the next episode will be on January 11th. So it is going on break for a little while. You know, I'm guessing this was probably considered like the fall finale. So, but things are going to get very, very interesting when we return. Because like I said, everything they're doing is trying to get rid of Remy. And if they manage to do that, well, they have to learn about Callisto first, too, because, like, I'm sure if they do this and bring Remy, seal Remy back up and bring Jane back, anything she did as Remy, she probably won't remember. Just like everything she did as Jane, Remy didn't remember, you know? So I'm very excited to see where we pick up when the show returns. But really, that's all I want to talk about. Until the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.